This is Poppy and Rye Chapter 11. Chapter 11 is called Mr. Kanade Makes Some Plans. It was still raining. In the middle of the pond, Mr. Kanade used his webbed feet to propel himself swiftly across the water with strong, steady strokes. There was something mighty fine about swimming, enough to make one fit as a fiddle. Now and again he lifted his head and let the pattering rain soak him even more. "Bless my teeth and smooth my tail," he murmured. "I do love water." Then he had a hard thought as to how to best express his feelings in words that had a real impact. Though it took some hard thinking, he worked it out. "The whole thing is," he decided, "it never rains, but it should a lot more." When Mr. Kanade said the phrase out loud, biting off the last T with a large orange teeth, he enjoyed it so much he repeated it to himself. "It never rains, but it should do it a lot. A lot." "I must use that," he told himself. "Perhaps during the next company meeting they would appreciate it. They would." With a strong pause, Mr. Kanade pulled himself onto the bank and gave himself a shake, sending water in all directions, and then turned to survey what had been achieved by the beaver's work. In the little valley through which the brook had flowed, there had been, Mr. Kanade's mind, a dull, dreary landscape, which no little to behold but a piddling stream without power or grandeur. It had no depth. Its banks were wasteful in their simple, sloping nature. Why, the water itself had no texture or color. One could see right through it. Limpid lily pads and useless brush rushes had marred its lazy surface. The animals who had wasted their time on the banks, mice, voles, otters, and toads, were insignificant. As far as Mr. Kanade was concerned, it had been a place where nothing important ever could or would happen, an utter waste. But now, how different the beavers had made it. Every day the pond was growing wider, deeper, grander. It was taking on the vibrant color of mud. It was a home for hardy, busy beavers who worked all day and night. This, Mr. Kanade said to himself, with genuine pride, is progress. The portly beaver felt so good about it, he spelled out the word letter by letter, Progress. And yet, Mr. Kanade had to confess he was not fully satisfied. No, he was not. What he and his company had created, he had to admit, was merely a pond. Mind, he told himself, there was nothing wrong with a pond. A beaver who built a good pond had every reason to be pleased with himself. Yet, even the word pond suggested smallness, a compactness of size which might be good for some, but not for the likes of Mr. Castor P. Kanade and Co. Not only could they do better, but they should do better. As Mr. Kanade saw things, it was not a pond that he needed, but a lake. The beaver cast his keen engineering eye over the little valley. To achieve a lake, they needed to build another dam higher up. As he surveyed the land, the little valley, he noticed a boulder perched on a hill. A large boulder, it was embedded in an outcropping of earth and stone. Flowers and shrubs shaded it. As Mr. Kanade perceived it, the boulder was doing nothing but sitting there, but it could be providing the perfect anchor for a new dam, an immense dam. With a dam at that spot, a large lake could be created. It would be his crowning achievement, a monument to himself. Indeed, what would be better than Lake Kanade? Mr. Kanade liked the sound of it so much he said it a few times. Then he reminded himself with some gleeful rubbing of his back feet it was time to stop daydreaming, time to get down to the nitty-gritty, to grasp the nettle, to get to the trenches, to flag the show, to hit the road running. But even as he watched and planned, he saw a mouse creep out from under the boulder and rush away. Mr. Kanade knew what that meant. Mice were living under the boulder. As far as he knew, these mice were the ones who were left around the brook. Most of the other creatures had departed. How pleasing to know there had been no resistance. Surely the last mice would quickly see the hopelessness of resisting the future. But what if they did not? He could swat them away. Mere nothings, they could be squashed, the mice would be easy, though the thought made Mr. Kanade uncomfortable. He was no bully, he just wanted progress. He wanted the world to appreciate him for the good he was doing. What he needed to do was find a way to convince the mice to leave on their own accord. It would make him feel good. Nothing was more important than making their good slogan, progress without pain. Mr. Kanade dove back into the pond and made his way to the main lodge. He came within 5 feet of it. He dove and swam underwater until he found the entrance. Mr. Kanade went to his plans, laid out on the bark, and began to draw in detail. The boulder here, new large dam there, lake everywhere. Then he mused, if I can make a lake, well, bless my teeth and smooth my tail, why not an ocean? The thought made Mr. Kanade grin broadly. Then he said, it never rains, but it should do it a lot. On me. Then he gave himself over to finding a way to convince those last few mice that they should move away.